Hi, this is the Fudge-a-mania book. 4th grade.
All right, tonight we're going to start our new book, Fudge-a-mania. All right, so the first chapter, remember, they were leaving Princeton and heading back to New York City. Okay. So the first chapter is titled, Who's the Lucky Bride? Who's the Lucky Bride?
And Mommy, and then I want to see the video, okay? When we're done.
Guess what, Peter? My brother Fudge said. I'm getting married tomorrow. I looked up from my baseball cards. Isn't this kind of sudden, I asked, since Fudge is only 5. No, he said. Well, who's the lucky bride? Any guesses? Jenny from the birthday party, maybe? Sheila Tubman, Fudge said. I hit the floor, pretending to have fainted dead away. I did a good job because Fudge started shaking me and shouting, Get up, Pete! What's with this Pete business, I thought. Ever since he could talk, he's called me Peta. Then Tootsie, my sister, who's just a year and a half, danced around me singing, Up, Pea, up!
Mommy, look at her eyes.
Next, Mom was beside me saying, Peter, what happened? Are you all right?
Oh, it's too hard.
I just told him I was getting married, Fudge said, and he just fell over. I fell over when you told me who you were marrying, I said. Who are you marrying, Fudge, Mom asked, as if she were seriously discussing his wedding.
What?
Sheila Tubman, Fudge said. Don't say that name around me, I told him, or I'll faint again.
Or is he marrying someone?
I don't know. Speaking of Sheila Tubman, Mom began. But I didn't wait for her to finish. You're making me feel very sick, I warned. Really, Peter, Mom said. Aren't you overdoing it? I clutched my stomach and moaned, but Mom went right on talking. Buzz Tubman is the one who told us about the house in Maine. M-A-I-N-E spells Maine, Fudge sang. Mom looked at him, but didn't even pause. And this house is right next to the place they've rented for their vacation, she told me. Am I missing something here, I said. What house? What vacation? Remember we decided to go away for a few weeks in August? Yeah, so we got a great deal on a house in Maine. And the Tubmans are going to be next door? I couldn't believe this. Sheila Tubman next door for 2 whole weeks. 3, Mom said. I fell back flat on the floor. He did it again, Mom, Fudge said. He's just pretending, Mom told Fudge. He's being very silly. So I don't have to marry Sheila tomorrow, Fudge said. I'll marry her in Maine. That makes more sense, Mom said. In Maine, you can have a nice wedding under the trees. Under the trees, Fudge said. Tease, Tootsie said, throwing a handful of gummy bears in my face. And that's how it all began. So that is the end of chapter 1. What do you think about their trip to Maine? What do you think is the main problem going to be in this chapter or in this story? Okay, so they're headed to Maine. The Tubmans are going to be next door. And Fudge thinks that he is marrying Sheila. So chapter 2, Pete and Farley. That night we went to Tico Taco for supper. I wasn't very hungry. The idea of spending 3 weeks next door to Sheila Tubman was enough to take away my appetite. I wish the Tubmans would move to another planet. But until that happens, there's no way to avoid Sheila. She lives in our apartment building.
Who's Tubman?
Tubman? Sheila Tubman. That's her last name, Tubman.
Who's the Tubman? Who's the guys next door?
Oh, his friend Jimmy?
Yeah. No, who's the people next door?
The Tubmans. She lives in our apartment building. We go to the same school. I kind of groaned and Dad looked at me. What is it, Peter? Sheila Tubman, I said. What about her? Dad asked. We're getting married, Fudge said, his mouth full of chicken and taco shell. I'm not talking about your wedding, I said. I'm talking about spending 3 weeks in Maine next door to the Tubmans. It won't be as bad as you think, Mom said. You don't know how bad I think it will be. She's older now. She's finished 6th grade, same as you. What's that got to do with it, I said. She'll still be the queen of cooties. What's cooties? Fudge asked. When I didn't answer, he tugged on my sleeve. What's cooties, Pete? Since when am I Pete? I asked, shaking him off. Since today, he said. Well, I prefer Peter if you don't mind. Pete is a better name for a big brother. And Farley is a better name for a little brother. I figured that would shut him up since his real name was Farley Drexel Hatcher, and he's ready to punch anybody who calls him that. Don't call me Farley, he said. Then he really let go and yelled, I'm Fudgy. The waiter who heard from across the room came over to our table and said, Sorry, we don't have any tonight, but we do have mud pie, which is almost the same thing. Dad had to explain that we weren't talking about dessert, and Mom added, We never eat dessert until we finish our main course. Oh, the waiter said. But before he had a chance to get away, Fudge looked up at him and said, Do you have cooties? Cooties? The waiter asked. For dessert? He looked confused, especially when Tootsie banged her spoon against the tray of her baby seat and sang, Cootie, cootie. I could tell Fudge was about to ask the same question again, but before he had the chance, I clamped my hand over his mouth. Then Dad told the waiter we didn't need anything else right now. The waiter walked away shaking his head and took my hand away from Fudge's mouth. And I took my hand away from Fudge's mouth. As soon as I did, he was back in business. What's cooties? This time, the people at the next table looked over at us. They're like nits, Mom told him quietly. What's nits? Fudge asked. Head lice, Dad said, almost in a whisper. Head mice? Fudge asked. Not mice, Turkey Brain, I told him. Lice. Little, creepy, crawly bugs that live in hair. I snapped my fingernails at his head the way Sheila used to do to me. Fudge yelled, I don't want creepy, crawly bugs in my hair. Now everyone in the restaurant looked over at us. That's enough, Peter, Dad said. Well, he's the one who wanted to know. That's enough, Mom said. It came out sounding like enough, which got Tootsie going. Ee, Tootsie shrieked, banging her spoon. This is the way it's going to be all summer, I thought. Only worse. So I put down my taco and said, maybe I should go to camp in August. Dad got this really serious look on his face. We don't have the money this year, Peter. We wouldn't be going away at all if it weren't for Grandma, who's paying more than her share. But if you want, you can bring a friend, Mom said. A friend, I asked? You mean like Jimmy Fargo? They both nodded. Jimmy is my best friend in New York. We've always wanted to spend the summer together. What about me? Fudge asked. Can I bring a friend too? I held my breath. You'll find a friend in Maine, Mom told him.
Mom, I'm pretending this is the color Bella is. Oh, look at the kind of picture I have. Look at what mine
Suppose
is.
I don't, Fudge asked.
Mommy, look at
You're
mine.
getting married, I reminded him. Does that mean I don't get a friend, Fudge asked. Of course not, Mom told him. I'm married and I have friends. Daddy's married and he has friends. What about Uncle Feather? I said. Uncle Feather is Fudge's minor bird. He's your friend, isn't he? I can't play with Uncle Feather, Fudge said. He's not that kind of friend. And I can't marry him either. If he was a girl bird, it would be different. People don't marry birds, I told him. Some people do. Name one, I said. The guy who's married to Big Bird on Sesame Street. Big Bird's not married, I said. That shows how much you know, Fudge shouted. He learned to say that every time someone disagrees with him. It's a real conversation stopper. I give up, I said. I'm going back to my taco, which is getting soggy. Up, Tootsie repeated, holding out her arms. Up, up, up. Dad lifted her up out of the baby seat, and she squirmed until he put her down. Then she took off, toddling through the restaurant, stopping at every table. Fudge scrambled off his chair and ran after her. Eating out with my family is not exactly relaxing. Here, girl, Fudge said as if he were calling a dog. Here's something just for you. He lured her back to our table and dropped some of his taco on her tray. Yum, he said to her. Yum, yum, yum. Dad put Tootsie back into her seat. She stuffed the chicken pieces into her mouth. I always know what Tootsie wants, Fudge said. That's why I'm her favorite brother. Tootsie doesn't have favorites, Mom told him. She loves both her brothers.
Is Tootsie a baby?
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know better?
No.
Is
But
it a
she
girl?
loves me best, Fudge said. Then he looked at me and laughed. When he did, half the food in his mouth wound up on my shirt. And that's where we're going to stop for tonight. We'll pick up tomorrow. So what do you think about Fudge's experience or Peter's experience at Tic Taco? Would you have been embarrassed if you were Fudge and your brother or sister did something like that? All right, so tomorrow night we'll pick up with the rest of this chapter. And chapter 3 is titled The Most Disgusting of Them All.